give what you can, even if your allies draw lines in the sand. And dig, always dig a little deeper. Sometimes it's hard to be my brother's keeper. Love, so you let love in. Baby, I am home in the wake of your singing. It's crazy how we wear a ceremony. Always be open to your path and your journey. Yes, she cradles my loneliness, a home to the forest nest. Universal test, feel the weight of my love. Put your hand on my chest and rest in the cradle of my arms. The battle that we face is a place where our scars come from. And to pick up the gun, my love, we are destined to teach these ones to be brave and never run away. Courage is birthed from the womb on the first light of day. Yeah, the day you were born, you came out perfect, never meant to be torn in silence. Never been so loud in the violence, never been so proud of our people. Women fighting for a change, not afraid to lose it all despite all the rage. We are animals and we cannot be caged. Provoke us to fight, so we burn a little sage and write poetry. Wiser than the enemy will ever be. The minority and authority. Are you here to protect or arrest me? I can't tolerate the hate and I'm losing sleep. Can't breathe cause they're choking out a war in me. Immorality, yeah. Love letters to God. I wonder if she reads them or if they get lost in the stars, stars and stars. So many parts to a heavy heart. If there's no beginning, then where would you start? Start, where would you start? Human souls, so we carve them into storytelling pose. Cause we're always searching for a certain goal, a pattern of physics, a role. Don't believe how you're told and open up your fist. A misconception, you could fight like this and praise. With the power of prayer, of God's on our side, we can take the stairs to the heavens. Flipping to my chapter 7, I live with the snakes and the great deception, no court. And this country for men who steal from the mother on paper with pen. And we're tripping down a red dirt road and we're asking, is this the way we should go? Kissing soft top feet, oh my God, this we walk the earth, baby, yeah, we got this focus. And it's redirected, grateful, and I'm resurrected, stubborn, but I know the way. You're the skin on my drum to your rhythm, I will sway, take my hand, I will lead you astray. We will not go deadly into the darkest of days. Grandma's here, and she says persevere, take a walk
All right, everyone. Welcome to Bold Like a Leopard live here on this Friday. We're only going to do a shorter stream tonight, seeing as we haven't really talked that much over the past few weeks. I'm going to give my post primary election result for analysis for Ohio. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Roe v. Wade and the ramifications of overturning it, as well as the coming recession. And those people that are saying, well, it can be avoided or there's going to be a soft landing if the Fed can really pull it off, right? The Fed has been hiking interest rates at a certain clip. I think they did 0.5% not long ago. I believe it was actually Wednesday. And immediately the market shot up, and then it lost the same gains that it made the day afterward, Thursday. And today it went down slightly. So all of the markets are right now, they're just retreating, but not necessarily in a linear fashion. They'll have their various ups and downs for the next, the next period. And then I do believe there will be a crash. And there are people, for example, Zero Hedge has one person who is predicting that the market will crash down to where the S&P 3 will have a level of 3,000, right? So at the moment, you can check. I believe at this point, the market is at like 4,100. So going down to 3,000 is not good for the S&P. It's not exactly, and that's really one of the markets where you have one of the more accurate indexes as far as where the economy how the economy works. So you can see that the lowest it went in the time of coronavirus during the initial period when the lockdowns began was to about 2,500 from what was then a peak of 3,380. So that now, right when Biden came into office, because inevitably this will be judged according to his results. So at election day, it had regained and surpassed its peak. So we had left the the COVID recession by the time of election day. At this point, so you have, this is January 24th, okay, of 2021. It was at 3,700 when Biden was in office. So this analyst is predicting that it will tank to a level that was previously seen only, back in, during the Trump era, right? So the Trump era saw growth that reached up to a peak of about 3,700, give or take. And under Biden, they're saying that it could, due to this recession, go as low as 3,000. And that would be a very terrible situation insofar as, having people be able to cope with, the ramifications of that. Because what does the stock market actually represent? Well, you have corporations that are on it, that are like Cigna. Cigna's a major corporation. ConocoPhillips. Those are companies that are generally benchmarks of important metrics, right? ConocoPhillips is a major oil producer. You have NRG, Energy Incorporated also, same idea. Their stock grew. But you had News Corp losing money today. News Corp owns the Fox networks and a number of other major news outlets. So they have two stocks on it that have lost money. Under Armour lost a quarter of its value today on both of its stocks due to supply chain issues owing to what's going on in China. So that was a story that I took a look at today. So what's going to happen to those companies? And think about Under Armour, who's another company that is in the same industry that has similar exposure due to its production in China. Nike. So that would be a very significant situation, in my opinion, were they to were you to see some sort of major downturn in the economy. So keep that in mind. We're going to talk a little bit about the recession coming forward. Now, so there's actually a clip I'm going to have to look for later, but we're going to go look at the primary results first. So this is from Politico, and they followed, obviously everybody was following this race in the Ohio U.S. Senate election for the GOP nomination. Now, for the Democrats, it was a foregone conclusion. What they're going to do is they're going to try to paint J.D. Vance, who is the nominee, as some sort of corporate tool or some product of Silicon Valley, and also as a racist. This despite the fact that he has a well-publicized marriage to an Indian immigrant, and or maybe like her family is from India, but in any case, so he is married to an Indian woman. It is covered in his book, Hillbilly Elegy. It's also covered in the movie adaptation of it, which is available on Netflix. So all of those accusations, I think, are going to be basically tested by the real life narrative of him. I will tell you that I didn't vote for J.D. Vance. It's not because I had anything personal against him. I did see his movie. It was an interesting one, and I think it was a good story. But I ended up voting for Mike Gibbons, who ended up coming in fourth place. You can see that the media was trying to say a lot about a different candidate. So you have here 5 days ago, even Fox News and a number of other conservative outlets were talking about Matt Dolan. So this is from WDTN, which is Dayton area news. Dolan was surging in the last minute of the Ohio GOP Senate poll. Why was Matt Dolan surging? Well, you have the media talk a lot about him because Matt Dolan was the only candidate who openly said that he's not interested in anything anything related to getting Donald Trump's endorsement. He's not going to ask for it, and he's not interested in it, and he doesn't have any interest in being associated with Donald Trump. And lo and behold, the media glommed onto him because they felt that if Matt Dolan were to surge and take the nomination and win, that would show that the anti-Trump wing of the Republican Party can be salvaged, and that the president's mojo has been finally tainted and he's going away. And that's not really what happened. You can see that Matt Dolan ended up coming in third in Ohio. As I said, I voted for Mike Gibbons. I think Mike Gibbons was the best candidate based on his economic perspective and the endorsements that he received and the fact that he had been a business owner. I had no problem with J.D. Vance. Josh Mandel was the other major contender who was largely tainted by his behavior. So Josh Mandel had a lot of viral moments during the campaign, including an altercation that almost developed between him and Mike Gibbons, where he accused Gibbons of questioning his commitment to, I don't know what to make of it. Like, it had to do, like, he started saying, well, I served in the Marines, and it had nothing to do with that. So I think that Josh Mandel's stock instantly tanked after that because people saw that he's a hothead and he doesn't know how to take any criticism. Immediately he pivots and makes it about his service in Iraq, and that reminds people of the character of Walter from Big Lebowski, who every single topic has to be about Vietnam. So, in my opinion, that's what lost for Josh Mandel the primary in Ohio. So, one second, let me just check that you guys hear me. For Josh Mandel. Okay, so, other than that, you had a governor's race. So, this, in my opinion, was the real reason to vote in the primary, because I don't know if the Senate race was going to, I didn't know at the time whether it was going to go one way or the other, whether it was going to go for Mandel or for Vance. Ultimately, I think it did vindicate Donald Trump that he is the person who owns the keys to a lot of these races. I don't know if it's going to follow him to Pennsylvania, because I think that there's a lot more resistance to voting for Dr. Mehmet Oz than there is to voting for J.D. Vance. Now, for governor, I do think he made a strategic choice not to make an endorsement. Ultimately, Mike DeWine won. I think that is the real tragedy of this race. I personally am not going to really get involved in volunteering, because I don't want to have any involvement with trying to get Mike DeWine reelected. He is not without his accomplishments, signing the heartbeat bill early in his time in office, which did provide a major roadblock going ahead for late-term abortions in the state. And now, after Roe is likely to be overturned, or at least at the moment looks like it's going to be overturned, I think that DeWine has a chance to redeem himself a little bit, because there aren't too many bright spots in his term. Now, there are two that I think, like, one of them being the heartbeat bill, the other one being his approval of the constitutional carry provision of the that the legislature gave to him. Basically, in Ohio, you're now going to be allowed in a couple months, or actually next month, you're going to be allowed to concealed carry without a permit. And that's good. Now, I do recommend for people who don't hold concealed carry permits and are still interested in carrying out of state, you should get your concealed carry permit, because you don't have necessarily the right to do it in states like, I think Indiana doesn't have constitutional carry yet. I don't think Michigan has it. So in order to get any reciprocity legally, you do need concealed carry permits for many of these states, and there's a map that you can access. In fact, here, I will show it to you. So, you have all these states that are allowed. So if you're from Ohio, you're allowed to carry without restriction in all of the green states. So actually, so Wisconsin and Indiana, yes. And Pennsylvania, you have restrictions. West Virginia, you have restrictions. Kentucky, you have restrictions. But still, it means that having the permit is actually valuable if you are a person who travels a lot. And look, if you're a person, especially think about people who are truckers, or they do a lot of business on the road. So if you're used to carrying when you're at home, or if you carry large amounts of cash on the road and you're afraid of getting robbed or something, you might have a problem carrying legally if you don't have a permit. So in my opinion, it is valuable to hold a permit still. Let me see if I can find the full. One second. So there is. Here we go. No, that's not the one. That's the one we just saw. So I think this is the full breakdown. So I'm going to run through exactly how I think that this is going to impact the November race. So J.D. Vance won a very impressive victory. If you look at the map, there were only a handful of counties where he lost. And indeed, Josh Mandel carried a few counties. But I think that people are going to get behind him because at this point, they know that he will probably veer to the right. And the reason he's going to veer to the right is because of the Roe v. Wade issue. Many of these counties, you have people who will passionately back a pro-life candidate. And plus, J.D. Vance has some bona fides that are very attractive for these voters with respect to his rejection of the war in Ukraine. So there was a motion put forward recently to authorize the use of military force in Ukraine for the U.S. He steadfastly rejected it. He said he would not vote for something like that. And I think in many of these areas of the state, people are going to say, yes, this is the type of leadership we need. Enough of the foreign wars. We don't believe the media's depiction of the war as being some sort of conflict that we need to be intrinsically involved in. So I think that's going to get him some votes. The Democratic primary was overwhelmingly won by Tim Ryan. And Tim Ryan is going to have a major problem because he's already made a major campaign flub with respect to his position on Roe v. Wade. So I think this was very recently. So this from Fox News.
Are you worried at all that this SCOTUS leak, the draft opinion, and whatever the ruling is going to be, somehow makes Democrats talk about abortion more on the national stage, and that affects somehow your pitch to Ohio?
Well, I talk about freedom. I talk about freedom as a basic American value all the time. And I talk about it mostly in the context of economic freedom. I think economic freedom means you've got enough money in your pocket to pay your bills, maybe go on vacation and not have to work 6 or 7 days a week, 12, 15 hours a day. That's economic freedom. And when it comes to the Supreme Court decision, that's an issue of freedom. Do we really think as a country that the government should force someone who's been raped to have to bring the pregnancy to term? That is antithetical to a basic American value like freedom. So
as Senator, I don't want to interrupt, but as Senator,
are important all across.
So that was his statement, and he used the term antithetical. He meant antithetical. So that was a flub. And then go ahead and hear how Bret Baier basically catches him in a position that maybe he didn't want to reveal.
Across the board.
As Senator, would you have any limits on abortion?
Look, I think what we had established in Roe is something that we can continue to work with. And I think those can be the parameters. But then again, if you get rid of what was established law, which in many ways was conservative, to keep that, to appreciate stare decisis and make sure we appreciate the law, if we move away from that, you're going to get states like Ohio that have some of the most extreme laws in the whole country, where if you're a young girl and you've been raped or there's been incest, that you have to, the state The government is going to force you to bring that baby to term.
Yeah,
and
I get
just
all
don't
that,
think
Congressman.
that's
But
a fundamental value.
my question was about any limits to abortion at any point. You know, late term, anything.
Look, you got to leave it up to the woman, because you
So
and I
no is the
sitting
answer.
here are a bunch of, well, you and I sitting here can't account for all of the different scenarios that a woman dealing with the complexities of a pregnancy are going through.
Okay.
How can you and I figure that out?
Well, I appreciate your straightforward answer.
So that was his answer. And look, I think that he made a clear pro-choice position. I just don't think that it's really going to play well with the public here in Ohio. We have a very pro-life electorate here. And then there was also this gaffe that happened today. So this actually happened in Ohio, and it's interesting because Tim Ryan decided not to appear at the same event as the current senators for Ohio, Rob Portman, who's retiring, the Republican, and Sherrod Brown. So you're going to see this. It's one of the funniest clips.
You know, things have kind of changed since the days when I first got there. He's been there a couple terms. I was there. I got elected when I was 29 years old in the United States Senate from a very modest background, and I was there for 36 years before becoming vice president. We always used to fight like hell, and even back in the old days when we had real segregationists like Eastland and Thurman and all those guys. But at least we end up eating lunch together. Things have changed. We got to bring it back. And Rob, I'm sorry you're leaving because you're one of the good guys. I mean because the way you treat other senators, the way you treat everybody. I appreciate it.
So what you don't see.
So I'm off to go.
There was another clip where you actually see, you see Rob Portman's reaction. Let me see if I can find it. 1 second. So let me get rid of this.
We always used to fight.
So I actually worked it out so it.
We always used to fight like hell, and even back in the old days when we had real segregationists like Eastland and Thurman and all those guys. But at least we end up eating lunch together. Things have changed. We got to bring it back. And Rob, I'm sorry you're leaving because you're one of the good guys. I mean because the way you treat other senators, the way you treat everybody. I appreciate it.
So you can see him basically be like, shut up already, like he's blinking like that. I think that Tim Ryan did a good thing by not going to that, but it's not going to help him because he's going to be associated with Joe Biden. He's going to be associated with a lot of these things, and that's really the key that you have to remember, that when you look at these races, you have Tim Ryan gaining 355,000 votes. His opponent, J.D. Vance, had 340,000, but he was in a race with about 4 or 5 other people. There's actually, this is the incomplete list of candidates. So there's another guy named Mark Paquita who was running, who I was considering voting for. But ultimately, you had 4 candidates that were in the 6-figure vote range and another one with a 5-figure vote tally. In the Democratic primary, you had only one candidate who made it to 6 figures, Tim Ryan, who overwhelmingly won. The other candidate, Morgan Harper, was the progressive, and she just got curb stomped. And that's another take that I'm going to talk about from this race. The Democratic progressive wing was completely defeated in this race. Morgan Harper was destroyed. It sort of shows that all of the enthusiasm that the Bernie Sanders movement had between 2015 and 2020 has evaporated because these candidates are just going nowhere. Morgan Harper had a lot of attention from outlets that were considered progressive, like the Young Turks and in Ohio, all of the alternative newspapers, and she got just blasted. In fact, even in Cuyahoga County, one of the more progressive, the county I live in, one of the more progressive counties, she was destroyed. She got less than her state average. In Franklin County, she got the most votes. She got 30%, the most votes of any of the counties that she was running in. And in Cincinnati, she also got about 19%, or sorry, almost 20%, but came in third. And then there was another candidate named Tracy Johnson, who I think would be considered sort of a business Democrat. And then, of course, I think we've already gone over the governor's race where Donald Trump really didn't make an endorsement. On the other hand, you have in the governor's race for the Democrats, you also have far less people voting. You had about 500,000 people voting in total. That doesn't really do much in order to increase the enthusiasm for the Democrats, because now you're going to have Nan Whaley running in November. She's going to have a person who certainly has a skeleton, Mike DeWine. He has a corruption scandal involving the electrical utilities. He certainly doesn't have the enthusiasm of the Republican voter base, but she doesn't have much enthusiasm either. So altogether, both of the Democratic candidates didn't have enough to equal Mike DeWine's vote total, and the total Republican vote in the governor's race was, it looks like, over 1 million voters. So, and then in the other state races, it was basically unopposed. In the Ohio House primaries, the Democrats also lost a major race. That was in the 11th district, where Nina Turner, who is a major figure in the Bernie Sanders movement, lost by a 2-1 margin. I had a lot of people that I know who wanted to weigh in on that race and support Shontel Brown simply because of Nina Turner and wanting to keep her out of Congress, and I thought that was a spoiled vote, but that's a debate for a different day. In any case, you're going to see a lot of exposure for the Democrats in some of these districts because of all of the economic turmoil that we're going through. The 13th district is one that's really a toss-up at this point. You also have, I'm trying to find it, but it is the Ohio 9th district. That's going to be a major race to look at. And we don't have a total for the Democrat in this case because she ran unopposed. She's been in there for 40 years. But the district is swinging slowly to the right. You had a lot of turnout for GOP candidates in that race, and that's long been a Democratic Union stronghold, the Toledo area. And now, I think with an unfavorable economy, the Democrats are going to lose a lot of support in the next coming months. So I do think that we should keep an eye on all of these, but I have to go today. Just a reminder that I am going to try to do regular live streams, but it's hard to really commit to it because sometimes there's projects I'm working on in the evenings. But of course, a regular schedule would help, so I'll announce it when I've decided. Likely will be on Thursdays at 6, so keep an eye out for that. And always comment in our comment section of this. Please subscribe on Rumble. Hold on, let me just put the graphic up. So, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, Podbean, Gab, Mind, Substack, Telegram, and Getter. And have a great weekend. Goodbye.
Give what you can, even if your allies draw lines in the sand, and dig. Always dig a little deeper. Sometimes it's hard to be my brother's keeper. Love, so you let love in. Baby, I am home in the wake of your skin, and it's crazy how we wear a ceremony. Always be open to your path and your journey. Yes, she cradles my loneliness, a home in a forest nest. Universal test, feel the weight of my love. Put your hand on my chest and rest in the cradle of my arms. The battle that we face is a place where our scars come from. And to pick up the gun, my love, we are destined to teach these ones to be brave and never run away. Courage is birthed from the womb on the first light of day. Yeah, the day you were born, you came out perfect, never meant to be torn in silence. Never been so loud in the violence, never been so proud of our people. When we're fighting for a change, not afraid to lose it all, despite all the rage. We are animals, and we cannot be caged. Provoke us to fight, so we burn a little sage and write poetry. Wiser than the enemy will ever be. The minority and authority. Are you here to protect or arrest me? I can't tolerate the hate, and I'm losing sleep. Can't breathe, cause they're choking out a war in me. Immorality, yeah. Love letters to God. I wonder if she reads them, or if they get lost in the stars, stars and stars. So many parts to a heavy heart. If there's no beginning, then where would you start? Start, where would you start? Human souls, so we carve them into storytelling pose. Cause we're always searching for a certain goal, a pattern of physics, a role. Don't believe how you're told, and open up your fist. A misconception, you can fight like this and praise. With the power of prayer, if God's on our side, we can take the stairs to the heavens. Flipping through my chapter 7, I live with the snakes and the great deception, no court. In this country for men who steal from the mother on paper with